Here's the solution to this never-ending oil spill saga. Just blow the dang well up. Bill Clinton is aboard with it. Take a listen.
Unless we send the Navy down deep to blow up the well and cover the leak with piles and piles and piles of rock and debris, which may become necessary. And you don't have to use a nuclear weapon, by the way. I've seen all that stuff. Just blow it up. Unless we're going to do that, we are dependent on the technical expertise of these people from BP.
All right, there you have it. So does President Clinton have the right idea? Or will this cause more trouble than it might be worth? Well, let's talk. We have former nuclear submarine officer Christopher Brownfield. He's an Iraqi war veteran. He has extensive experience in strategic energy problems, and his book, My Nuclear Family, will be published in September. We also have oil policy expert Kent Moores, who's currently consulting Wall Street investors on the BP oil spill. Hello, gentlemen. Christopher, Bill Clinton kind of endorsed your position, and I noticed he said conventional blow-up, not a nuclear blow-up. Now, tell us what you were thinking. You put a big piece in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, that's right.
How do you see
Well, for the last 6 weeks, I've been advocating a conventional demolition of the well. And people say blow up the oil well, but it's a little bit more sophisticated. If you think of the way an oil well is constructed, it's a long, narrow tube going through many layers of rock. And what I've been advocating is putting explosives next to that oil well and collapsing it from the side. So think of stepping on a garden hose rather than blowing anything to smithereens. You step on the garden hose from the side, it cuts off the flow of oil, and most of the oil would be stopped. It might not stop all of it, but it's certainly enough to get us out of this crisis mode.
So let me get this right. Using a conventional bomb device of some kind, okay, run by the Navy. You're going to do this. It's not going to blow up the Gulf, you're saying, right? But it will stop the oil.
Right. When
so
you look
if you're
at
sitting in Louisiana or Mississippi or the Florida Panhandle and you're watching this show and you're listening to this former nuclear submariner blow up the Gulf, you should be okay. It won't affect them. They won't get blown up too.
Right. It sounds a bit scary at first, but when you look at the reality of the proposal, it's actually a very precise demolition, kind of like what you would see people using to blow up a stadium after the stadiums retire or large buildings. It's a very controlled evolution, and it's something that couldn't possibly make the spill any worse than it already is.
All right, Kent Moores, a controlled way to stop the Gulf spill. What is your thinking on this?
Hi, Larry. I think this is a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea because these kinds of approaches work only if we have a very precise understanding of what this underlying undersea reservoir looks like. Unfortunately, we don't. We may well, to use the garden hose example, actually create greater evil out of this. Take an example of the following. Let's say you have that garden hose on full blast and you put your thumb over a portion of it. All you do is deflect the water in another direction. We run the risk, if we put the explosions in the wrong place, that we end up deflecting both the oil flow and the pressure and create even additional difficulties.
All right, Christopher, you don't agree with that. Why not?
I mean, anybody who's studied fluid dynamics would know that if you put your thumb over the garden hose, you're going to increase the differential pressure, which would reduce the flow. So in the worst case scenario, you're going to reduce the flow of oil from this well. And there's no such thing as deflecting the pressure, what you're talking about. It doesn't make any sense.
But do you have the precision to do this? Serious question. I'm a novice. This is science way above my pay grade. But do you have the precision to do this? Because the BP operation, in some sense, has been all about the lack of precision. Everything they've tried underwater has not worked, and they have all these near misses, Christopher. In this case, with demolition derby to blow this thing up, near misses may scare a lot of people.
Yeah, and part of the thing is, Larry, that the reason why this is so confusing is because it's not just an engineering problem. It's a political problem, and it's an economic problem. If you want to look at the real reasons why this has been so confusing, you have to look at the economic incentives. In this case, BP had a slightly different goal. Their incentive was to control the oil flow. It wasn't to stop the crisis. And if you look at that, that means that they had a different incentive. They brought different approaches to the table. Every single approach that BP's brought to the table involves recovering the oil. And that's, if you want to understand why they did these decisions, that's what you have to look at.
Fair enough. Kent Moores, I'm going to give you the last word. He says there is enough precision, and now the incentive structure is correct. What's your response to that?
That's absolutely incorrect. Number one, unless you understand the precise structure of the damage done below the seabed, demolition of any sort whatsoever is likely to increase the problem. My primary Armageddon fear out of all of this, and it's been rising over the last couple of weeks, is that we have some difficulties emerging at the wellhead and about 400 or 500 feet below the structure of the wellhead.
So when's this thing going to end, Ken? Just
Well, the only thing we can do right now is hope that the relief wells work. If those relief wells that will be there about mid-August can actually allow us to deflect a certain amount of that oil flow, we may actually reduce the pressure and allow us to cap it. Short of that, we're looking at a full-blown oil flow
All right.
for the next 1,015
I got to
days.
leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Chris.